I can't do all of this. I'm not to the point I can hire somebody. You can hire a software to help you take care of that. That is a lot more cost effective and will be way more beneficial to your company than even just bringing someone in and having to train them how to do this. The software already knows how to do it. So get yourself organized, allot the time to be able to set it up and implement the program the way it's designed. Because if you do, you will be able to free up so much more time to work on your business instead of in it. If people had found us on Yelp, which is a big lead generator for us, or we would always ask when they call, how did you find us? Did you find us on Google? Did you find us on Yelp? Did you find us on Facebook? Wherever it was at, we would ask them, please tell us about our service on wherever they had found us at. We knew it was something that they were already using because that's how they found us, and that was a good way to generate leads. We would leave a little leave behind card too, please tell us how your service was. But I've noticed that since we've automated that, they've been able to just click a link and we get a lot more feedback than someone having to sit down and actually type in a web address. If we just send it to them, they can click, type something in, send it, and it's done. It also is huge ego boost, if you will, for our employees that come to work for us when we can give them kudos that somebody shouted out their name in a review online in association with our business. We celebrate those wins. Without Keap, Junkrite would be a hot mess. No. Without Keap, my automation would not exist.
Allison probably does, but I'll send you the link to this video. So how many viewers do we have on Instagram? 9 viewers on Instagram already, and we've got 19 on Facebook.
Cool. All right, welcome everybody. We are live on Facebook and Instagram. It's going to be a fun chat here today with a couple of entrepreneurs. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the challenges and successes of entrepreneurship. I am Clate Mask, co-founder and CEO of Keap, and we're really fortunate today to have a couple of entrepreneurs. We've got Justin Clark. He is the founding attorney of J. Clark Law Firm, and we also have Clint Hosman, longtime friend, former Infusionite, keeper, worked with us for a couple of years and then have gone and started your own business. So why don't we do this? Justin, why don't you start and just give us, give the audience a little background on your business, a little bit about you as an entrepreneur, and then we'll do the same with Clint.
Yeah. So as Clate mentioned, I'm Justin Clark, and I am the owner of J. Clark Law Firm, which is a trademark and copyright focused law firm. So we help businesses protect their brands and identities. There's a lot that goes into a trademark. Some people don't realize that. But that's one of the good things that I get to do as an attorney is educate businesses about what they can do to protect their brand. And I also work with startups because invariably startups need a lot of protection of intellectual property.
So I can't help but ask you this question. Yeah. I know I'm already going off script, so sorry about that. I was thinking the other day, when business owners find their website is being swiped, it's being copied or whatever, there's a saying that says that imitation is the most sincere form, or is the most sincere flattery.
Yeah.
At what point do you advise business owners, entrepreneurs to say, no, don't let people copy your stuff? I mean, because sometimes it can be more hassle than it's worth to go after it. But do you always find that, do you always recommend to your clients that they go after, for example, someone that copies your website, looks really similar? I remember in the early days of our company, we found a website that was literally the exact pictures, copy, everything was exactly the same. And at first we're like, whoa, what the heck? How did this how did this happen? And it was just somebody who did the same type of services we did. They happened to be in New York. We were in Arizona. I guess they just figured, we'll just use that website. But I would just love to know, just kind of a practical tip. What do you tell entrepreneurs who find their stuff is being borrowed by others?
Borrowed, yes, and that's putting it nicely.
Yeah.
Because usually, like you said, it is just wholesale copied, which is unfortunate because when you're a business owner, you don't want to worry about the hassles of going after and doing what might seem like auxiliary work because you're not reaching your customers at that point. You're chasing kind of not a red herring. I mean, it's a legitimate threat, but it's not focused on developing your own business. So yeah, I like to take a kind of a more business-minded approach, and you know, sometimes it's better to just negotiate or contact this person and
Yeah.
you know, feel them out. I mean, where are they? Why are they doing what they did?
Yeah.
Sometimes, you know, it's an honest mistake, and in those cases, you can usually get them to stop what they're doing pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Other times, unfortunately, you have to become more involved in litigating, and you know, which I don't like. I like to tell
Hopefully
clients,
you can avoid that.
yeah, right. Hopefully you can avoid
Yes.
that because it's going to keep you focused on your business. But I find that, you know, in maybe 6 or 7 out of 10 cases, you can usually resolve issues like that by just, you know, a simple like phone call
Yeah.
or email or
Great.
a letter. And yeah,
Thanks
so,
for
I mean,
sharing.
that's great.
Thanks for sharing that with us. I thought about that instance we had just last night. I was thinking about that for some reason.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to bring that up. All right, Clint. So tell us a little bit about your firm. A
right.
little bit about what you do.
So what I do is I help entrepreneurs of pretty much every business model optimize and scale their business through automation.
Okay.
Wah, wah. Hooray! Probably a little bit more context to the story. My wife and I bought Infusionsoft for her business. She was an insurance agent over a decade ago, and back when we bought it, they weren't doing onboarding.
Mm-hmm.
So I always tell people when it comes to,
Hey, Clint, you're muted.
I'm muted. I always tell people, don't mute yourself.
Sorry, just go ahead.
Okay, now, tell us about your business. So there I was in Vietnam.
No, owner, builder, LongShip systems. So to kind of get a better flavor for what I do, as I help businesses scale through automation.
Okay.
Okay. And Infusionsoft, Keap, the world of systems, it's confusing, right? And so entrepreneurs that are really genius in their niche run into this thing of, okay, I want to build it, I want to scale it, how do I do it? Right? And training robots
Yeah.
to do menial tasks for you is a quick way to scale, right?
Yeah.
But the difficulty that you run into is something that my wife and I, we've experienced firsthand. We had bought Infusionsoft for her business. She was an insurance agent. And we'd bought it, and we're like, we have 2 master's degrees. We should be able to figure this out. It was like 3 months of monkeys staring at a math problem. Not because of the software, but because we didn't fully get
Right.
thinking in that way,
Right.
right? And so came here, worked at Infusionsoft. For 2 years, I always tell people I was employee 169-ish,
Okay.
somewhere in there. And made the jump over here into the big building, and then after about 6 months of being in this building, left.
Yeah.
And went to work with a great partner called 6th Division, and was the director of client services there, and got to see firsthand the inner workings of all different kinds of businesses, from people
Great.
that train goats to eat poison ivy to digital marketers and everybody in between. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into a little bit more. But one thing I love about today's live is that we've got 2 entrepreneurs who help entrepreneurs. So we're going to get in a little bit more. So you have appreciation, understanding of what our audience goes through, because you not only live it, but you work with them. You work with them on a daily basis. So let's get into it a little bit. Tell me just briefly, Justin, how long have you been in business?
I've had my firm for 6 years this month, actually.
Okay, 6 years. Congrats.
Thank you.
That's awesome. And Clint, how about you?
LongShip for 2.5 years?
2.5 years. Okay, so 6 years, 2.5 years. I tell people all the time the first 3 years are brutally hard. So you can divulge the truth if you want, or you can not. And you had the benefit of going into a business you started that kind of came out of not only our company, but then a partner company, and then doing your own thing. So you probably had a little bit smoother transition than many entrepreneurs have.
I assume so. Yeah, it's tough to tell,
Yeah.
but it's one of those things that with every transition, it's like, and even if you really planned on it,
Yeah.
when you actually make the leap, there's all of the hidden things. You can
Right.
intellectually know something,
Right.
but then once you experience it, it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like any building project. They say, well, it's going to take twice as long and cost twice as much.
About right.
Building a business, I think it might be like 3 times as long and 10 times as much as that. I mean, it's similar that way. So, but you're 2.5 years in, and Justin, you're 6 years in. Let's talk for a second about the struggle that you go through in the early stage. So you're a solopreneur, you're getting this business going. We've all experienced it. What was a time where it was really tough for you, and how did you push through that?
Well, there was a time, and it was, I think, maybe within the first 2 years of starting the business, and I was facing kind of a cash crunch. I was doing a lot of work, which is great. Clients were coming to me, but invoicing was a little bit, lagging. And even when I invoiced, sometimes payment wasn't as forthcoming. Classic problem, right? Entrepreneurs face.
It is like service businesses. We see this all the time. You're doing work, you're busy, you're not getting paid, either because sometimes you're not sending out the invoices, sometimes the client's not paying them. You can't stay on top of that.
Yeah.
But being busy and getting a lot of stuff done, in some cases you're doing work for the client, but actually getting the dollars into your bank account is a different story.
Yeah, that's true. And I think over the years I've developed systems, and I've become a better, because it's all me at this point. It has been for 6 years. I've had some people that I've hired on the side to help. And as I expand, I'm looking more into that. But when you're the solo guy, you're running everything, sometimes you can fall behind, and you need tools to help you just run the day-to-day stuff of the business, or else it's all going to just come like crashing down on you, and you're going to feel overwhelmed. You can't do the work that you like to do, and client relations might suffer as a result. So, but since the first year or 2 years where I had some of those crunches, I've got some systems in place now where it's finally I'm able to do the work, do all this administrative and business development stuff, and then still meet the needs of my clients.
Great, thanks for sharing that. So first couple of years, cash crunches, it was hard, but you found systems as a way to help you get through that. Great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Clint, how about you? Maybe this is present for you. I'm not sure. 2.5 years in, but what challenge? Share with the audience a challenge that you had and how you overcame that in the early stages.
And I'm probably still very early in on it. One of the challenges that I run into is the dividing line between client work and my work. I always tell people my business is everyone else's business. And so I'd get really into the machinations of what they're doing, how they're doing, and then when it's time to say, oh yeah, but what about your stuff? Because in my space, people are going to go to your website and they're going to expect something. They're going to answer an email or get an email, and they're going to expect a level of sophistication. And when it's not there, because you're busy, the cobbler's shoe effect, right? It's like, hey, well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. Like, you're right, I should be doing that. And then that shifts the focus, has shifted the focus from what I'm providing to what I'm building. So that balance has always been a tough one.
Yeah. When we talk about the stages of small business growth, I talk about these stages all the time. And when you're in stage one as a part-time solopreneur first, they're just you can't find the time to work on it because you're working full-time and but then even when you become a full-time solopreneur, you still are wanting more hours in the day for sure. Time is the biggest challenge there. It's the biggest hurdle. Then you get past that hurdle, you start to have some success, but you find you've got to be able to sell to people other than just your friends. Initially, you can kind of get through that first stage where your clientele are the people you know well, but you've got to get to a point where you can sell well. And then getting out of that stage, it comes down to marketing effectively. If you can't market effectively and not just sell to someone you don't know, but actually attract interest from people you don't know, if you don't do that, then you kind of get stuck in this stage where you really have a good job, but not a business that you're growing.
I heard somebody say once, a smart guy said, entrepreneurship is effort and letting go.
I've heard that.
Yeah, and I've tried to, for those who don't know, that's Clate. I always bring that one up and it's an axiom that I try and live by, and it's hard though. Like, you have a specific level of care and value in building your brand.
Yeah.
And so I have to let go of the dragging, the dropping, the consulting to somebody else that I hope loves it as much as I do.
Yep.
And I really am a firm believer in that letting it go one piece at a time. And as we've added more bodies to LongShip systems, that's gotten easier for
Yeah,
sure.
well, you said the key thing. You know, when I talk about this quite a bit as entrepreneurs go through the stages, a lot of times what gets them stuck, particularly in stage 3, 4, 5, is they're trying to control everything. And you know, as entrepreneurs, we're kind of control freaks. It takes one to know one, by the way. So, but if we're holding on too tight, the business can't move to that next stage. And yet, you know, it's terrifying as an entrepreneur to be like, whoa, I don't want this to go to the next. I'm not quite sure how things are going to go if we do that. But the key is systems. You know, when you get systems in place, you're able to begin letting go of certain aspects of the business. So, you know, we're going to get into systems in just a second. But okay, so you've been 6 years in the business, 2.5 years in the business. You made it through some hard times. You've had successes. One of the reasons we love doing these Facebook Lives, part of it is to talk about the challenges so people understand, hey, if that guy can do it, I can do it. So sorry that you're that guy.
I'm that guy.
I'm that guy, but we are that guy, right? So if you know, if she can do it, I can do this. If he can do it, I can. We see that all the time. It's one of the most inspirational things our customers tell us when they're stuck, and they're feeling, you know, times are dark, and they're feeling like, you know, maybe everybody's right. I should just throw in the towel. It's seeing other people who got through those challenging times that gives them the motivation, the inspiration to keep going. So thank you for coming and sharing a little bit. Now, when you get to a place where you're having a little bit more success, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You know, it becomes a ton of fun. So I'd like you to take a second and share the fulfillment that you have, the satisfaction that you have as an entrepreneur, and what's something that you've experienced over the years that caused you to say, this is why I do it. This is why I love running my own business. Mm-hmm. So you want to start, Justin?
Yeah, I guess the nicest thing about running a business that I see, and this isn't unique to law. I mean, it's unique to it's common across any business. It's just a different type of end product. But mine is seeing a client who's pleased with the result, or getting, in my case, a trademark filed and getting it through, and handing the trademark certificate to the client, and just seeing them, because filing trademarks, it can take a couple years to get one filed and through the office, and then once you get it, I mean, it's almost like the gift on the gold platter. It's the culmination of hours of work for the attorney. For the client, it might be a name that they came up with years and years ago, and they've loved it, and they've always wanted to protect it. And now that they finally have their blessing from the U.S. Trademark Office, it's a very fulfilling moment.
Yeah,
for
they
them.
own it, right?
Yeah, they own it.
They've created something, they own it now.
So yeah, for me, it's doing all that hard work, working with the client one-on-one, having all those email back and forth, phone calls, times when they slam their face against the wall because they're not sure what the trademark office is asking them to do, or I'm not sure what the trademark office wants. We finally get it through, and it's just the beginning of the trademark process, because once you have the registration, you've got other things you have to do to protect it. But that's kind of the thing that gets the ball rolling.
So specifically, you're talking about an instance in your trade where you're protecting the intellectual property of your clients, and you bump into, in the journey of doing that, you bump into all kinds of snags and challenges. You don't know what the trademark office is going to say. The client's frustrated, thinking, why did I even do this? All of those challenges that you push through, you get to the other side, and the fulfillment for you as their attorney is sky high, and them for the business owner is like, okay, this was worth it. It was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a specific version, but generally, what we love to do, I think all of us as entrepreneurs, is we love that win. We love when we get to serve the client, we get to help them. In our case, we love helping our customers grow. So when they grow their business, and we get the success stories that roll in that say, oh yeah, I sent this first campaign, and this is what happened, and I had these leads that opted in and moved. You hear about these things, it's like, yes, because the other side of that for us, the thing that's so exciting is the time that they save, the energy, the effort that they put into all those things. Now they get freed up, and they don't have to be the one that's right there moving every lead and client through the process. They get to actually experience automation doing that work for them. That is For us, it's the same thing. We see all those obstacles and challenges because a lot of times in our clients' case, in our customers' cases, they end up just saying, I don't have time for it, and they don't do it.
Yeah.
And then their business doesn't grow, and they're frustrated because they're putting their heart and soul into the business, but they don't realize there's a better way if you do automation. So that's the satisfaction for me. We see the success stories roll in on our Slack channel, and it's like Christmas for every time as I read those things because it's so fun. How about you, Clint? What is it that gets you fired up, excited about the work that you do for your clients?
Currently, as Justin was talking about that, there are two things that jump to mind currently, and going back to that other conversation just a second ago about letting go. It's getting a text message from longtime clients who I've transitioned to a new employee and having them text in like, Jake killed it. Jake's great. And then another time somebody texts in, I've never felt so good about this project as I do now after talking to Sarah.
Oh, that's great.
Now I can it feels like there's a light
Yeah.
at the end of the tunnel where I'm
You don't
not
have to
the
be the
guy.
one. Yes,
That's right.
that's right.
I'm not the guy. We're one
Right.
step closer. And so not only is it cool to see it from my perspective, but it's cool to see it from my employees' perspectives where, look, man, I want them to be better at me.
Yeah.
I want them to be better at me at what they're doing and want them to excel. And then the other one is my 10-year-old, her name's Dagny, and it was maybe a year after starting LongShip, she's like, I used to think what you did was cool. Then I found out what you did, and it's not that cool. I'm like, yeah, thanks, babe. But she saw that, and she's like, this is about 8 months ago, she says, I want to start my own business. I'm like, all right.
That's cool. Yeah.
Cool, yeah. Well, what do you want to do? And she goes, well, there's some boys that do mowing lawns, and I don't really want to do that, but they come by every week and mow our lawn. I want something that people want something from me every week. And I'm like, okay, all right.
Good thinking.
Yeah, I like this. And then she's like, what about cookies? People like cookies. And so seeing her kind of take that entrepreneurial spirit and then watching her enjoy the fruit of her labor as it is, and it's been fun.
Yeah.
So passing it on to other people is really where I enjoy it.
In the first case with employees, it frees you up.
Yeah.
In the second case, you're seeing legacy, right?
Hopefully,
You're
right?
watching your child. Okay, so let me explain why it took a second to kind of dig in a little bit on why we do this. What's the satisfaction? What's the fulfillment for me? What is it for you, Clint? For you, Justin, as entrepreneurs? One of the things I found, and I wrote about this in Conquer the Chaos. One of the things I found is that when entrepreneurs are stuck in the grind and they're just they're feeling the weight and the overwhelm, and they're having those doubts and those concerns and fears, I'll even call them. One of the best ways to get through that is to remind yourself the smile, the joy, the satisfaction you have when things go well. So you can read client testimonials and their success stories. You can spend time with a customer and interview them and just ask them. You can do things like going back and reading emails and just interactions you've had. What I find is that when entrepreneurs start to lose that fire to keep going, they've become disconnected from the passion and the fulfillment that they have with their clients, with their families, their own personal satisfaction in their growth. It could be income growth, because let's face it, sometimes you have these hard times, these dark moments where you're doubting because you're in a cash crunch. It's like, gosh, I'm doing all this work and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. I could be making more money doing X. You say those things. And it's like, hold on. There are times where it's good financially. There are times where it's not as good financially. It's part of it. And we've got to remind ourselves of the good times. So I wanted to take a second, not just to draw out the cool things that you do and the way you get inspiration, but to remind us that when we're stuck and when we're frustrated, and we all are in the entrepreneurial journey, it happens all the time. Let's not forget to go back and be grateful for those good times, the amazing fulfillment and satisfaction we've had, because that gratitude will swell inside of us and then push us through the challenge that we have to get to that next great moment.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so the other reason why I brought this up, though, is that you're talking about systems all throughout this. Clint, you're talking about systems, getting through hard times. Justin, you're talking through it. Heaven knows I've written a lot about this. Conquer the Chaos is all about the systems that you use to overcome the challenges and to grow a successful business without going crazy. and we talk about mindset systems, but I want to talk, and that's important, and we spent a lot of time subtly talking about mindset systems, frankly. It's the actual tools and organization and automation and follow-up. Those are the systems we talk about in the book that I think a lot of times business owners overlook. You know, you get in it, you're doing the grind, and you're feeling just totally overwhelmed, and there's a better way to do it. So I talk in the book all the time about organization, follow-up, and automation. I would love to know, when you were in your cash crunch, what kind of systems did you create that helped you to push through that? And then I'm going to ask you, ask you, Clint, what kinds of things you see businesses doing frequently, the kinds of systematizing, the kinds of automation that are accessible. Not, and I know you pride yourself in not creating crazy, complicated stuff. So I want you to just maybe, I'm asking you beforehand so you can think about it a little bit. What are the kinds of things that our listeners can take advantage of to get more hours in the day, to get more organized, to feel a little more calm and in control, like they're running the business instead of the business running them? So let's start with your specific case, Justin, where you were in a cash crunch and you started to figure out some systems, in this case, invoicing.
Invoicing. So I used a software, it's called Rocket Matter.
Okay.
It's specifically built for lawyers, and it helps them organize matters by client, and it handles invoicing basically.
Great.
You can integrate with other software platforms, I think, like QuickBooks. It's also a task manager, which I haven't used very much. I use Asana for task management because it's just worked well for me. But I'm always open to trying new systems. So it was just really quite simply a matter of committing myself to invoicing every month.
Yeah.
Because with law, sometimes matters can drag on for months and months.
Right.
Like I mentioned, trademarks can take years to get.
Right.
And sometimes billing goes by the wayside. Because
So I'm going to interrupt you. You said something really important. You said it was a matter of committing myself. Okay. Every entrepreneur that's running their business is committed. They want this thing to work. What happened that enabled you to actually stay with that commitment? Because what I see over and over and over, in fact, we've built a company around the fact that people have commitment at one point, but something happens and it slips, sometimes unbeknownst to them. They don't realize it, it's slipping through the cracks and they forgot about it. Sometimes it's just, I know I should do it and I haven't forgotten about it, but I just can't get to it. But you had a commitment to do invoicing. And if ever there was something to be committed to, it'd be to get money, right?
Right.
Let's get the money that we have earned for the work we do. And yet, I don't want to belittle this. I cannot tell you how many entrepreneurs I've talked to who go out of business because they don't invoice. Or because they invoice but they don't follow up effectively on the invoice. And they don't get paid, and ultimately they can't make it. So what happened for you when you got some kind of ultra sharp commitment to invoicing? What was that?
It was just realizing that there were some months where it felt like I was spending days on end of just invoicing, and I thought this isn't right. I shouldn't be putting everything on hold to invoice. Because
you're not getting paid for invoicing.
Right.
You're getting paid for doing the work.
You can't bill clients for invoicing. It's a little ethical problem. But that was when I kind of realized, I really need to hit this hard every month. Just set aside, maybe a day. Maybe that's all it's going to take.
So it was like stacking up and getting batched, and you're spending a ton of time. And you probably realize, okay, I'm getting paid late because I'm not doing it on time, and then I'm spending then it's like it's invoice day, and you're spending your day invoicing.
Right, and it just makes it demoralizes you as an entrepreneur because there's so many other things I want to be doing.
Right.
I want to be doing more client work, or I want to write that blog post, or I want to go to this event. Oh, I can't go to this event because I've got invoicing to do. And that's when I was kind of thinking, well, this is taking away from my business development. So
you're like, I got to get a system to do that so I can focus on business development or billing clients, right?
Right.
Now, and are all of your clients fantastic and they pay you right away the first time you send your invoice?
I would say probably now 80 to 90% are that way.
Okay. Justin's got really good clients because that doesn't usually happen. No, that's really good.
Yeah.
But there's 10 to 20% of the time where it doesn't happen. You've got to send another invoice,
Right.
Do the like other color
Remind
paper or
them,
something, whatever it is.
follow
Right?
up,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
And it always makes you feel like the bad guy,
Right,
Because
you feel-
you're always you're pestering them for money again,
Right. Right.
Yeah, so
For your money. by
yeah,
the
for
way.
mine, right.
Yeah. So you've earned that money, and yet you feel like the bad guy when you got to ask again and again. Totally, like this is what business owners deal with everywhere. So, so getting a system that does the invoicing, and then also having a system that it will follow up for you, that saves a ton of time. Also makes you not have to be the bad guy, or at least not feel being the bad guy every time, right?
Right.
You can pre-write the sequence of follow-ups, and you write it once, and you get it just right, and then it goes every time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an example of systematizing the mundane, regular tasks that have to be done. But there's something important here. They don't get done because you've got an emotion around it that's not a positive emotion, right? You don't like feeling like the bad guy. You don't like having to do this menial work, and so it drops. What we all know as human beings is we don't do the stuff that we're not excited about. and so what happens is, unfortunately, follow-up is not something that's super exciting. So we don't do it, it falls by the wayside, and that laser sharp commitment that we had to it on a certain day, which for many entrepreneurs follows after they talk to their spouse who says, hey, how come you're not doing this, right? You get this laser sharp commitment, and then the business happens to you. The commitment wanes because it's not something you're excited about. So here's the point. If you've got something that is mundane, repetitive, and it's not something that you're excited about, you got to automate it. Create a system around it, and it will help your business to grow. Because those are the things that you're putting in the back of your mind, and you're kind of like, I don't want to do those. Great example on invoicing. This is awesome. I didn't know we were going to get into all this good specific stuff, but this is really fun. So Clint, what are some of the things, I mean, you're an expert at this, and we wanted you to come share some of your expertise because systems are such a game changer for people, but they also can be intimidating. People are like, oh, I don't want to automate, this is going to be complicated.
Well, you know what I find with that, when people start being resistant to the system, which is, right, everybody's a special, unique artist in their world, or so they think. And so there's this resistance to automating it because nobody gets it the way I get it.
Right.
Like, yeah, maybe not, right? And then probably one of the more common resistant points that people have is there's so many options.
Yeah.
Right? And I always tell people, look, especially when you're starting out, at a certain point you have to stop listening to all the other voices. Pick a software. Pick a process. Well, what's the right process, Clay? I don't know. We don't know until we try them, right?
Right.
So pick one and be committed to it. And if you just commit, block it out, and go in a direction, sooner or later you're going to find that, okay, this is or it isn't working for me.
Yeah.
But it's that analysis paralysis conundrum, especially in the space that I know you're in, I'm in, where it's like, hey, Clay, you should be doing this with your blog, or you should be doing this with your email, or you should be doing this, and everybody's got a freaking opinion about it. It's like Ramit Sethi, he had this blog a long time ago. This was probably like 5-6 years ago, and I'm going to totally butcher it. And he said, my brother-in-law, who doesn't have a business, came to me and said, hey, Ramit, what's the best email subject line that I could send to get people to engage? He goes, the best email subject line is the one that you actually send.
Yes.
Just send it.
Right?
Just send it. Well, which invoicing system is the right?
Invoice.
What does your best buddy use? That's the best one. The one that you'll actually click on and send, right? And there, at a certain point, the best one is the one that you send. But my job is to help people optimize once the commitment has been made.
Okay. So when we talk about systematizing things and ultimately automating those systems, so it happens automatically, because you can have a system that's totally manual, but it's systematic and you do it every time and it works for you. What we find is that frequently entrepreneurs and business owners, especially in the early stages, they haven't yet established a process.
Yes.
And therefore they can't build a system around that because they kind of are, it's natural. You're starting a business and you're kind of trying to figure out, well, what goes next? How does this work? So how do you help people discover a process? Because I think sometimes they think, well, it's got to be this perfect thing, you know, and yet just start doing it. How do you help them with that?
I think most people have opinions about process without an actual process.
Okay.
They've read everybody. I listen to a lot of Gary Vee, so I know what's up. Yeah, but what do you actually send? You haven't sent anything. You have opinions about process. So whenever I'm approached, I don't specialize in new Infusionsoft Keap users. You have to have a few years, months in the game to really, you have a vision of it. I'm not going to sell you on it. So people will, though, ask me, hey, should I buy Keap? Like, okay, do you have a process? Well, yeah, I have a process. Do you have it documented? Well, no. Okay, put it in a Google Sheet. Once you have a process and you've checked some boxes, that gives me something that I can work with.
Yeah.
Well, what's the right process?
Right.
Don't know.
Right.
Like, the best process is the process that you actually use.
Yeah.
And so starting with the checklists, even if it is a sticky note, I've automated plenty of sticky note businesses. It's a very clear sticky note process.
Right.
I can deal with that.
Yeah.
Right. But if we're inventing a process that you're not actually committed to, then it's difficult.
So if you are sitting there saying, yeah, I would love to find more time in the day by putting systems together and automating them, that sounds great, Clint. But you don't know what that process is you would automate. What I would tell you is go and look at the things you're doing repeatedly again and again. Go look at your outbox or your sent box in your email and look at what you send over and over. Look at your notes or however you track the work that you do and look at what you're doing over and over. And get some quiet time to think through, where am I spending this time, this repetitive work that I don't need to be doing by myself. I can do this once and set it up.
Yeah.
And what you said, because I know the customers of our software, I was able to infer something that you said there, which was if they haven't been in the business if they haven't been using the software for a few months or maybe a few years, it's difficult for you to do what you need to do. And here's why. Using the software, in this case you're using Keap or Infusionsoft, it helps you to practice your process.
Yeah.
And you start to find out, oh, here's actually what works for me that saves me a ton of time. Because invariably you'll put a process into place and you find out, oh, step 4 actually is always done manually. It's not done automatically. Or this step, I find I always need to proceed that step with a phone call.
Right.
And you realize, oh, there's actually another step in there. But what happens, and you said this exactly right, people get so caught up in what's the process that they don't put up anything in place.
Right.
And so you just continue to one off, and you are on the proverbial hamster wheel.
Well, and I've worked with a lot of businesses, multi-million-dollar businesses that are sticky note businesses. And we'll build something simple or something complex. And my worst pain in the heart as a business owner is to have worked and labored with somebody to pull that idea out of their head.
Yeah.
Have them say, yeah, that's
Right.
it. And then come back 6 months later and say, how's it working? We're not using it.
Right. And you're like, oh.
I'm like, oh, no, geez.
And a lot of times it's because it wasn't perfect, or there was something that was a key part of it, and they didn't practice.
okay,
Say, oh,
so-
we got to inject this piece.
So here's where I think people get confused: is you have so many other things, employees, payroll, taxes, more taxes, spousal relationship, more taxes, and then you're also supposed to create systems and automation,
Right.
And so you say, yeah, I get it, Clint. Yeah, that makes sense, but you don't.
Yeah.
And you're also not willing to let go and say, I don't have to understand how this thing works.
Yeah.
I just have to trust that when I click the button, something happens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because they don't understand, they're gonna not fire, right?
Right.
Or the other one, to go back on the whole process, if you have a process, is people will blame their lack of process on the software. Oh, the software's complicated. Is it? Or is it life is complicated?
You didn't have a process, right?
Right. Everything's complicated.
Right.
But you boil it down to the simplest level and then add on top from there.
Yeah, and thanks for going through that. And you know, in defense of a customer who says, hey, it's complicated, I would say, yeah, Infusionsoft was pretty complex.
Yeah.
That's why we created Keap.
That's why it's rad.
To simplify it. That's why it's rad for someone who wants to do all the automating, right? If you're someone who just wants it more basic, that's why we created Keap, to have a little more simple approach to it. But here's the thing. Whether you come up with a straw man process on your own, or you use templates that are in the software, or in any kind of most software has templates of some sort. The point is, start doing it. And don't expect it to be perfect, but start doing the systematizing. The cost on the other side is your overwhelm. That's the cost. That's what you're dealing with. You get overwhelmed. You cannot keep up with it, because as a solopreneur or a small business with a few employees, you just can't do all the work that needs to be done. So we went deep into this system stuff because I have so much passion for entrepreneurs to help them be successful by organizing, following up, and automating. And the two things I want to leave you with through this conversation, if you're kind of stuck on, I don't know where to start with system, or I don't know where to start with systematizing. First, you don't have to get it right, just do something, as you said. The second thing is, find a very simple place where you can apply a 3-step follow-up. 3-step follow-up, it's magic. It might be in an invoicing where you do the thing and then you have 3 follow-ups that go out. 7 days, 30 days, 60 days, whatever. 3-step follow-up. 3-step follow-up, wherever you see the thing slipping through the cracks, the ball dropping, you will find that if you do that 3-step follow-up, put a very simple automated campaign in place. It's very easy to do in Keap. You can do it in Infusionsoft. You can do it in lots of different software out there. But just follow up.
Can I add on top of that?
Yes.
So I would say, if you're solo, automate the thing that makes you money first.
Yes, that's right.
Right, like that's job number 1.
Yes.
Get more money, because otherwise
that keeps the lights on.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Everything
right.
else wilts. And then number 2, if you are more established in maintaining, okay, we're good, we're cash flow positive, what's next? Well, as a business owner, for many of the CEOs that I work with, it's clarity. I need to know that this is happening, right? And so where is it, as a business owner, you either see the most opportunity or are feeling the most pain? How can we create a system to identify and track that?
Yeah.
Job number 1, make money. Job number 2, identify the pain point, build to that.
Yeah. That's great. Great advice. And I've seen many times where people will get caught up in creating systems that don't actually make them money.
Who saw this?
Right.
Nobody.
Right. And it's nice, and it might save them some time. But you want to do that starting with getting the money into the bank account and then moving backward in your process. Okay. Really great advice. Thank you for the specifics on getting through cash flow crunches with invoicing. Some of the more common types of challenges people bump into. Maybe share this. What are some of the things, some of the specific things that you see that people should automate that they don't automate? Maybe that would be helpful for people. What to create systems around. One we talked about was obviously invoicing. I'll share one that I see all the time. It's traffic that comes to your site, and you collect that traffic through a form and do nothing with it. That one is a big missed opportunity. What other missed opportunities do you see where there's just a screaming need for systems? You have clients that come to you, and then I'll ask you, Justin, where you think through your business, where's an area where you either have automated it, you're glad you did, or something you can see that, oh, I could automate this?
Well, so I 3-part answer. Number 1, my core philosophy in automating is simplicity scales, complexity fails. So everything that I'm going to approach is from a very simplistic standpoint first.
I like that.
Okay, so there's 2 types of businesses. Simple. Business is where I have to talk to you to give you my money. Business is where I don't have to talk to you. All right, so if you're a business type that your customer or your leads or prospect have to talk to you, job number 1, scheduling software, whether you use an appointment core, Acuity, some kind of integration.
Or Keap.
Or Keap. Oh yeah, that's right. Wah, wah. Or whatever.
This was not planned. That just came up. So.
Or text message, which is in Keap too, I think.
Yes.
eliminating the back and forth of what time
Oh,
works
yeah.
for you, what time works for you.
Yeah, because you do business by connecting with
That's
the
right.
customer on the phone or even sometimes face-to-face meeting.
So if you're a consult-based business, scheduling.
Yep.
And then some form of follow-up around the appointment to make sure people show up.
Yep.
If you're the type of business, and there's combos of both, obviously, where I don't have to talk to you to give you my money,
Mm-hmm.
it's somebody buys something from your store or whatever, automated follow-up on, hey, do you want to buy that again? Just
Repeat
something.
sales, automated,
That's right.
yeah,
Like just a week later, a simple email. How did that go? Did you like the thing? Did it show up on time?
Great.
Just ask for more money again.
Mm-hmm.
And that, it's amazing how many people with e-com setups that don't have some sort of renewal or follow-up process built in. They're just like, oh, when they run out of soap, they'll just buy more soap.
And it's funny because we all know that the easiest customer to gain is one you already have, right?
Right.
To get to sell to an existing customer, and yet it's one of those things that just sort of falls by the wayside when you're on the hamster wheel running like crazy.
Yeah.
Great suggestions. Justin, any thoughts that you have about something that you see to be automated in your business or something you've already done?
Yeah, so obviously in law, a lot of things are deadline driven, and trademark practice is no different. Trademark office has deadlines you have to meet, and oftentimes you'll need additional information from the client to respond to something that the trademark office is asking you about. And sometimes that's documents, sometimes it's proof that the mark is being used, or if it's maybe the client provided a picture of a website and they need to provide like a picture from a brochure.
Yeah.
It's just following up with the client to get that information, because sometimes the client may not understand, well, we already filed this trademark, why are you asking me for this stuff again?
Right,
Now I got to go back and ask my marketing department. That kind of stuff, maybe by its very nature, it's unpleasant, so people don't want to do it because it requires them to maybe contact somebody else. But I've got to just keep on top of them about that because we've got a deadline to meet, and then usually it's a hard deadline. You can't extend these. So yeah, I've kind of perfected a process, and even if it's a sticky note process, it's still a process.
Yeah.
There is software out there that handles this stuff, but it's very expensive, and I feel like it's not. It's not geared to what I'm doing.
Yeah.
My system works. It works, and it's just quite simply follow up. Every 30 days.
Yeah.
To make sure I get this information from the client. And
Great.
then, at some point, I guess I have to drive over there. If emails aren't working, right? But it's still a system. It's
Great.
still a
Well,
process.
thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And Clint, thanks for the mention of appointments. And you make a really good distinction. Do you talk to people to do business, or can they do business with you without ever talking to you? If they talk to you, you need some kind of scheduling software. It's funny last year when we began introducing our new product. It was funny because the people the customers and partners who love the Infusionsoft product were kind of like, this new product, that's not the same. And we're like, I know, it's supposed to be a light, easier version. That's the idea. And yet there was something that we did late last year that all of a sudden sparked interest from the lovers of Infusionsoft. And it was when we created the appointments capability.
Yeah.
When we created the appointments capability, the lovers of Infusionsoft, I'm one. I also love Keap. But when we did that, we had some customers and partners who were like, whoa, now this is interesting. And that capability in the software has become, one of the most popular functions of Keap, because not only does it eliminate the back and forth and the follow-ups, but you can do it super simply on your phone. So the mobile capability. And more importantly, it's really, really easy for the client to schedule with our customer. And that's the key, right? Taking the burden off of the person you're the business owner, and you're kind of putting a burden on your client to schedule time with you, and you need them to do it, but you end up being the bottleneck frequently because you're on the phone and you're dealing with other matters. And so that back and forth, it's not only inefficient, but it's really aggravating and exhausting to the client, and you might lose that business.
So I have to, with what Justin was saying about the getting back, I can't take the consultant hat off in this regard. And in that back and forth scenario, it's like I'm assuming that this is somebody that's giving you money. And so that back and forth scenario around guy is totally distracted. That's blown. It's all right. I'll never come and get it again. Playing like an appointment scheduling software, making sure, I always tell people, look, we're going to break your process into micro goals, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Micro goals, the objective, once somebody schedules, the next objective is to what? Get them to show up, right? And so you're going to be following up with reasons why they should show up.
Yes.
What value are you going to provide?
Mm-hmm.
What help are you going to give? And so in this scenario, if I was consulting with you, Justin, I'd say, look, you're trying to do them a solid, right? So it's a really good angle to continue to play on that follow-up. You can be as harassive as you want because I'm helping you out, man. Yeah. I care about your trademark. Right. You care about your trademark? Because I care about your trademark. Mm-hmm. Help me help you.
Put the benefits into the follow-up.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's always in their perspective. But yeah, once they've scheduled and you have that integration complete, and people again say, well, what should I say?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
what do you get?
You can tell that Clint loves to dig in deep on this stuff, and he's a great expert on putting systems in place. I'll finish with this, and then we'll just do our wrap up here with, if you're looking at wanting to follow up better, there's three areas that we've seen over the years. This is over a decade and a half of working with small businesses and helping them organize, follow up, and automate. And what we see over and over is every business needs new lead follow-up, new client follow-up, and a long-term nurture follow-up program. And you can do it very simply. You can have your long-term nurture be as simple as a monthly newsletter that goes out, but you need to stay in touch with them and build that relationship. And every new client that comes in, you need a welcome program for that new client that comes in. And you might say, oh, well, it's more transactional. Still, you want to have that welcome. And then the third thing is you want that new lead. That's where a lot of times the things slip through the cracks. And if you are working with appointments, you want to create that capability and get them meeting with you as quickly as possible. So new lead, new follow-up, long-term nurture, those are three things that every business needs. And I would challenge any business owner to not be able to uncover some gold in one of those three mines.
Well, and I always,
because even if you're doing it, you can make it better, and you can branch it, and you can get people to talk more specifically to them.
Well, and it's the middle one that you identified there, following up with the people that you already have.
Yeah.
Like it's just this last month, I closed somebody on a project. They've been in my database for over a year, and it's not a small buying proposition, but just continuing to stay in touch.
Yep.
And I always tell people, assume the positive. It's not that they're not closing today. It's that something came up.
Right.
Right? Like, assume that they still like you. Yeah. They've just got concerns. But it's that middle ground of long-term follow-up where real gold is found.
That's right. Keep following up. Okay, so let's finish up with this. And the question is, what's the next big goal you're working on in your business? And before we get to that, just a quick shout out to Luke on Instagram, who says they use Infusionsoft and it's a credible platform for building a business. Yes, that is true. So thank you, Luke. Thanks for joining us. But let's wrap up with this. As entrepreneurs, we're always going after the next goal, next big thing, something we're working on. So Justin, what's a big goal you're working on?
I would say it's getting more involved with using Keap and Infusionsoft.
All right, I like it.
So, yeah, I'm still a rookie to this, but really, I've had this plan in my head for a while, and it's just how to develop new clients. And I've got kind of the pieces there, and I just need to bring them together and reach out and implement that program you're talking about, where you've got kind of the nurture, or the three prongs you were talking about. I'll have to go back through and
new lead follow-up,
I should
new
have
client
brought a
follow-up,
notepad to
long-term
take
nurture.
notes on this. And just implementing that, because I think there's a lot of value, especially in law, where a lot of people don't know what they don't know. And so there's a lot of room there for you as an attorney to develop a business relationship with them, educate them. Even if they go to somebody else, at least you've planted the seed, and follow up with them. They'll learn something about what you can do for them, and who knows, they might drop your name to somebody else.
Right, exactly. Great. Thanks for saying that, Justin. How about you, Clint?
We're going to be moving into a new, bigger office.
All right.
December. Yeah.
Cool.
So we're excited about that. So we'll actually, the AC is a bit shoddy in our current place, which is kind of a bummer in July.
Yeah, that's a problem in Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're moving into that, and then we want to start having the ability, or we will have the ability to have clients come in-house.
Cool.
I really like the idea of, or the experience of being face-to-face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of our clients are in Europe, New Zealand, Australia, and technology's rad.
Yeah.
But it's no substitute for face-to-face and seeing how people flinch when you're going to send an email. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. You're like, no, I just got it. We got it. So that's going to be huge for us.
Cool.
Getting clients in-house.
That's awesome. I'll tell you something I'm really excited about. Whether you use our software or something else to help you grow, I absolutely believe there's nobody that is as passionate about helping small businesses grow as we are. And we recently have taken a bunch of the learnings over a decade plus and have created a model that we are using to teach businesses how to grow more effectively. And some of the stuff we're talking about here, but how they actually implement it. And I'm really excited. We're beginning to share that with our kind of with the ecosystem that's starting to roll out here. So over the next couple of months, we'll be doing more and more of that. Years ago, we talked about the perfect customer lifecycle.
Yeah.
I still have a lot of customers that will stop me and say, "Oh yeah, we do the perfect customer lifecycle," and it's awesome. And this is it's a little bit like that, but different in some ways that I think is more accessible and understandable, and I'm super excited about it. So that's a big thing we're working on. Well, I know you've got big goals that you're up to. Thank you for spending some time to hopefully get inspired a little bit and get some ideas about things you can do to grow your business. We wish you the very best, and when you face challenges and you're struggling a little bit, keep going, keep serving, and keep growing. All right.
That was
Thanks.
fast.
Yeah, that was fun. Thank you.
All right.
That was great.
I think I learned more than